Good afternoon. Welcome to the January 15th, 2026 inaugural board meeting of the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District. We would like to acknowledge that we are gathered within the territories of the Shishal and Squamish First Nation and call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. Our first order of business will be the election of the chair. The procedure for election of the chair is set out by the board procedures bylaw. I will call for nominations 3 times. If only one candidate is nominated, that candidate will be declared elected by acclamation. If more than one candidate is nominated, each candidate will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board in favor of their candidacy and in the order the nominations were received. I will then hand out blank ballots on which you will write the name of your candidate of choice. We will collect and count the ballots and inform the board if there is a successful candidate. Are there any questions about the process? Would the board members like to know how many votes each candidate receives? And if so, would one of the directors like to make a motion to that effect? Hearing no questions or motion to report the counted vote, I will call a first time for nominations for the position of chair of the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District. Director Toth.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Director White.
Director White, do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you.
I will now call for nominations for chair for a second time. I will now call for nominations a third and final time. There being no further nominations, I declare Director White elected by acclamation to the position of chair for the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District. Congratulations, Chair White.
Thank you. And considering I am online, I am wondering if you can continue to oversee the deliberations for vice chair.
Yes, correct, I can.
Okay.
So the election of the vice chair will follow the same procedure as the election of the chair. I will call for nominations 3 times. If only one candidate is nominated, that candidate will be declared elected by acclamation. If an election by voting is required, I will hand out blank ballots on which you will write the name of the candidate of your choice. Ballots will be collected and counted, and I will inform the board if there is a successful candidate. So I will call a first time for nominations for vice chair for the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District. Director Bax.
I'd like to nominate Director McMahon.
Director McMahon, do you accept the nomination? I will now call for nominations a second time. I will now call for nominations a third and final time. Okay, there being no further nominations, I declare Director McMahon elected as Vice Chair of the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District by acclamation. Congratulations.
Thank you, and thank you to our corporate officer for ushering us through that process. And now I'll get back on track here. So I would like to call to order this meeting. Actually, it was called to order already, wasn't it? All right, I don't have to do that. Awesome. But we could adopt an agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved, seconded. All in favor? Well,
I'd like to move, sorry.
Yes?
I'd like to move it with the addition of a motion.
I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Director White.
You
Go
can't
ahead.
hear me very well?
Go ahead. There's just a bit of a lag, that's all.
Okay, I was hoping to move the agenda with the addition of a motion that I've circulated to the board.
That's correct, and I apologize again. Perhaps we can revisit the agenda. Could I have a motion to adopt an amended agenda with the motion as circulated? Moved. Seconded. All those in favor? All right. Apologies. I'm tired today too, so if I yawn, it's nothing personal. Okay, back to the agenda. Minutes. We have here the Regional Hospital District Board meeting minutes of October the 16th, 2025. Are there any errors, omissions, corrections? If not, do I see a motion to approve the minutes? Moved. Seconded? All those in favor? Thank you. Business arising. I don't believe we have any business arising. We have no presentations or delegations. We have a schedule on page 6 proposed for upcoming meetings. Are there, I don't think we need staff to introduce that. I think it's pretty straightforward. Are there any concerns, conflicts, changes? Question, Director Bax.
Yeah, usually we do these meetings in the afternoon, and I noticed that the July and October meetings are set for the morning. Is there a reason for that?
I suspect that the reason is that we have discussed moving the Electoral Area Services Committee to the afternoon. And and swapping it out with the Regional Hospital District.
Thank you for that clarity.
Okay. Anything else? Could I? Recommendations are moved, seconded. All in favor? Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, considerations to supporting a home for hospice project, and over to our CAO.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So in front of you here is a report providing some considerations in contemplating the home for hospice based on the delegation that was presented to us last year. And so staff have outlined some financial implication, legislative implications, and are here to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Director Inkster.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Hospice came to us a number of months ago. We were very supportive. We went and looked at the facility. I think this board's very supportive. I did read the report. It's fairly clear. I do like the option that looks at reserves and or taxation, just based on the fact that we never know, other than the strong support for this, what may come down the hospital needs pipe. So it allows us to have taxation. So I'd love to see us, that's where I am thinking, that's where I would like to go, thanks, to support this project.
Okay, Director Toth, and just a note to Director White that if you have a little hand symbol, I cannot see it. So if you need to raise your hand, please wave. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I guess this is clarification that I'm seeking from our CAO, because the request here is for $1.5 million, recognizing that hospice wants to have a $500,000 capital reserve. And I'm wondering if it's appropriate or legislatively allowed for us to be funding a capital reserve. Because if it's not, I could see our request being basically the remainder of the money, which I think is 1.13. But yeah, thank you.
Over to CAO/CFO.
Thank you, Chair. So if I could just back up a little bit on process. So what's in front of you here are really some contemplations of implications if you actually make the decision to proceed with amending and incorporating and having the legislative ability to fund this particular facility. So that's step number one. And realizing that in front of you here, this is not a decision report per se. That was not what was requested by staff. It was just let us know what are some implications. So the considerations of how we fund it would probably be step two. First, we'd have to undergo the considerations of the legislative piece. We'd have to work closely, of course, with the facility itself and Vancouver Coastal Health and the province. So that would be step one. I think what we've outlined here is understanding what the process timelines could be and also some financial considerations, because that was what was asked by staff, meaning what could you potentially use as funding sources and what would be the impact if you did use those funding sources. So that would probably be step two. There's probably something in the middle, but the first one is really let's get cracking on the legislative part, which is, what I would see is if the board wanted to proceed is a motion to say that staff proceed with the undertakings of putting this particular facility to have authority for the Regional Hospital District to fund it under the Hospital District Act in coordination with VCH and the province. So that would be step number one. And then the next one is once we have more clarity on that, then we'd have to talk to the Hospice Society, Vancouver Coastal Health, the province, just about, okay, timing of funding. In here, it sort of outlines, and we wanted to make sure that this public document, that the hospice understood some of the constraints we have, and also just signal from the board as to, just to get some sense of where you were thinking. So we were, as staff, we were able to navigate that in our discussion as far as the next steps, if the board so chose to do that. So I don't know if that doesn't answer the specific question. I hazard to answer that one yet because there's a lot of moving parts. Like Vancouver Coastal Health could come to us tomorrow and have a last minute request. We're not quite sure. So this is what the snapshot is at the moment. But it does give us a sense that where the board would be leaning to.
Thank you. Director Toth, follow up, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, CAO, for the reminder of where we actually are at today. Because I think a couple of directors probably had very different thoughts about where we were headed today. So I'm supportive tentatively of the concept of option 1B. I know we're not making that decision today. I like the idea of funding part of it from reserves and part of it from taxation. I think, I hear a lot of commentary at this table in the community about downloading of services from the province. And fundamentally, I think these are things that should be funded by the province. But in the absence of that funding, I think that it's something that I can stand up in front of my community and say, yeah, we need this here, and the province isn't coming to the table, and we're willing to step up. And so, I am supportive of us finding a way to work with hospice to provide them some funding for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a speakers list right now. Next, Director Inkster. I've done it again. Then Director White. Then Director Bax. Is anybody over there? Just checking. Okay.
I'm the one that gets Director, but I'll take it. Directing me to speak. So I guess I was a little brief at the beginning, and obviously with any decisions that we make in government, it's a direction to staff in this case. So I was brief, but I will say it again. And I did say it, I support this idea and this concept. B, I chose the taxation. So those are the pieces that I hope we can formulate a decision and or motion to instruct staff to go down that particular road. I think it's important. I don't think that we can, as Chair Toth was referencing, I don't think we can negotiate and or wait for the province to make a decision on this. I think we need to support a building that's very close to completion and get that building open for our community. But also, too, I think there's some ramifications that will be dealt with also with a motion further on in the agenda that if we do help and to secure the funding, get the project completed, open the building, that it hopefully will free up some of the issues that we're having in the hospital and in the long-term care home in terms of bed need. So it's a big picture discussion, but I hope that we can formulate today a recommendation to support this needed project and move towards putting funding in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Director White.
Okay, I just to first respond to Director Inkster. I don't know. I think I'd rather follow the staff recommendation, which to me sounds like making a decision on just pursuing the process of making this a hospital district VCH facility, hospital facility, I guess, under the Act, so that we can fund it in the first place. That's what it sounds to me like the decision is before us today. And I'm supportive of that direction, particularly because of I mean, it's just, I think especially because of the palliative care part of this new building. I mean, that's directly taking pressure off the hospital and programs and some programming that would normally be in our overcapacity hospital. So and no doubt, I mean, as we know and we'll talk about later, any kind of relief from the long-term care beds that are or capacity that's getting filled up in our hospital is helpful as well. So I'm supportive of that direction. I'm not hearing we need to pursue a further option here today. I think it's really helpful to get some of these options out to the public, especially in terms of the taxation that we're going to need to proceed with these options. So I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know what our plan is to do that. I mean, I think it would be helpful. It might be helpful to make a subsequent motion about making sure the message gets out that we're considering this. That hopefully this will be well reported. But if not, it might be helpful to get some kind of press release or something out of what's actually on the table here. But just that was my start of responding to Director Inkster, but I also want to zoom out a bit in terms of the frustration I have, and I think our board shares, of the lack of a plan from Vancouver Coastal Health. We've been waiting for a health vision for the hospital for a long period of time now, and especially when we raise concerns about long-term care or any other really severe needs in our community, we're basically told to wait for the vision to come out, and it's still not out. So that's frustrating. It's frustrating that although we've all been aware of the great work the Hospice Society is doing and supportive of it, that Vancouver Coastal Health did not give us a heads up, even in our working group formats that we've been trying to do to supposedly give us heads up on things, that this would be coming to us as a potential hospital district expense. And in many ways, I share Director Inkster's enthusiasm that this is something we should support as a hospital district. It worries me just about the way that there's a lack of a plan and things are just coming to us. And to me, especially when we're talking about reserves, putting reserves into this, what do we know about the totem capital costs? Not much. Is there any need for the hospital district to chip in there? We don't know. We've never been. It's never even come up for discussion, even in these working groups. And furthermore, any of the long-term care expansion that we all know well, that our community knows well, is really reaching a breaking point. So I appreciate Director Inkster bringing up the motion that's coming later on too, because that's an important piece of the context. Is we really need some more planning from the provincial government and Vancouver Coastal Health to be able to confidently put reserves or raise taxation for a project like this and know that the other needs are also being met in our community, and that there's also a plan for those, and that in a couple months, VCH isn't going to come to us and say, well, actually, we need 1.5 million for this other crucial need as well. It's concerning. So I wanted to say that, and I recognize there's a speakers list. I'll hear what other people say, but I would be willing to put forward a motion to pursue that first step of approaching the province about making this a facility within our mandate.
Thank you. Director Bax.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Director White. And I've looking at the requirements to support this society as a home for hospice project. It says that in the Hospital District Act under Section 49, that the minister may designate an institution or facility in the health field as a health facility. And in working with Director Toth, I've crafted a motion that I'm going to put forward now. That I move that we direct staff to engage with the Ministry of Health to designate the new hospice as a hospital facility. And I believe that covers the first step that we need to take in this process.
Does that cover it adequately?
Well, are we engaging or are we pursuing?
Pursuing seems to be the right language then.
Yeah. If I could, I think we need more explicit direction.
Okay.
That staff pursue the Ministry of Health
Designation.
to designate the hospice as a hospital facility within the Sunshine Coast Regional District Hospital Board purview.
I think that's suitable. We administratively can make any refinements if needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that you seconding this motion? Okay, it's on the floor. I'm going to ask a question of staff. What actually are the implications for us of designating this as a health facility, other than obviously we can spend money on it, but what legal obligations or financial risks come with this kind of a designation?
That we'd need to pursue more information on.
I would really like to have that information before we ask the province to designate the facility for sort of obvious reasons. I don't know if anybody else has observations about this, but I just want to fully understand the implication of any request that we make to the province. I'm just going to, for a minute, pursue something else. Along the lines of what Director White has been saying, I mean, I love this project. If this project was a term paper, it would get an A+. It just checks every box. It's a wonderful project. But I feel like the province is holding us ransom, forcing us to push costs onto local taxpayers because they will not provide services that are urgently needed in our communities. And they know we can't say no to dire needs, and this is playing out right across the province. Hospital districts are taking on more and more and more of what should be funded by the province. And if we step up, of course, they're not going to provide the money because we've just said we're going to pay for it. So as just an example, the regional hospital district in Nanaimo is funding 3 long-term care facilities, addiction services, and a local health center, plus major renovations to their hospital. And this is getting pushed on to property taxes, which are an unfair they're regressive form of taxation. They're based on property value, not people's income. and they do not reflect the ability of residents to pay. But in the bigger picture, what's happening is that the province is essentially forcing us to raise our property taxes, and we look like the bad guys because we keep raising taxes, and they can keep the provincial property tax or the provincial income tax down. So we're really, caught in a devil of a situation here, and some of the other regional hospital districts are near revolt because they have taken on major costs that they've discovered they can't afford to pay for. So that's I'm definitely just want to raise the specter of the risks. So I think I saw Director Toth, were you wanting to speak, or? All right, then it's the director.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Some of the points you make, obviously, sadly, local government and our taxation and the fact that we're on the ground, we often have to step into the breach on a number of different levels. We're dealing with that at the District of Seashelt, with Arrowhead yesterday to support them, and I would encourage this board and others to look at supporting them more because of the funding gap they have for vulnerable people. But we often have to do that, and so when the vote is called, Chair, I will be supporting it, but I do understand what you're saying because we're all taxpayers at this table, and we're all paying those increase in taxes. I quickly calculate what this will cost me, and it's to support this issue, and we all get old, sadly. So I'm certainly prepared to pay that little bit extra right now to get to go down that road. What I would suggest, if this goes forward, and I hope it does, that we have this piece in our discussion with the additional motion that was added to the agenda later to talk to, if possible, the Minister of Health about some of the things, either face-to-face or in letter form, about some of the things that this hospital district, like others, is doing to support their mandate, and that we would like them to give special consideration, if possible, to us on issues such as Shorncliffe, because we're certainly doing some local heavy lifting. Thanks.
Thank you. I haven't heard anything from this end of the table. Director Gabius.
Thank you, Chair, and as you, or Vice Chair. As you were saying earlier, it is a pretty perfect project. And we all had the opportunity to visit and to see, kind of be able to imagine what it'll be like. And it's just such a beautiful project that will allow people to end their life with dignity, and that we're all getting there. We're all marching towards that. So, of course, it's something that I would like to support. But on your point of figuring out what the impacts, what the legislative impacts would be of making the hospice facility, taking it on, basically. I'd be curious to know what, if there are any ideas or how it's, do we know of any impacts from other regional districts' experiences, or have you heard anything? Or I appreciate the cautious approach because that would be a big step. So I'm wondering if that would be a better approach to get that information first, so that we can step confidently into taking on that big responsibility.
Director Stanford.
Yeah, just listening to everyone's aspects of this is sort of a big jump for us. But it makes sense within the hospital environment. So I don't necessarily see that it is anything that much different. I mean, we can ask for more information, but that doesn't change the project or the value of the project itself. It is something positive that we can speak to our community with. It's not pipes and strange esoteric projects with, that could go on forever. It has a clear direction. It is a service that